Hello. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our webinar. We'll be talking about project management in SharePoint, how we can create a project management business application in SharePoint without using any development tools and no programming. Let's talk about a little bit about who InfoWise is. InfoWise develops SharePoint components. We've developed over 40 different components that extend SharePoint in different ways and help you do more with your SharePoint. 15 of those components are packaged together as Ultimate Forms solution, which allows you to build real-life business applications in SharePoint easily without using anything but your browser. And using those components, we've created some 15 different solutions that you can download and install and try and extend on your own machine. And one of those solutions is project management that we'll be covering today. But you have a variety of other solutions as well. You can see here HR recruitment, help desk, and many others. You can see all of them if you go to Solutions tab on our main menu. Okay. So let's continue with another little poll that will ask you what solutions you might be interested in out of the 15. So basically, just answer what kinds of solutions you will be interested in having running on your SharePoint. Okay, we'll wait a bit longer for more people to answer. About 50% now, climbing up, 60%. Okay. About 5 more seconds, and we're going to close the poll. Okay, let's close the poll and share the results with you. So help desk seems to be a popular choice, room reservation, and 61% would like to see something else. Okay, so let's start then. So just a few words about project management. Project management is one of the main business applications that you can have. The most important thing about project management solution is that it must be built according to your unique requirements, because that your organization requires. So your basic options would be either buying an off-the-shelf system or building something in-house. So when you go and you select to buy an off-the-shelf system, it's not exactly built to your specifications. So some changes are required that could be costly or sometimes impossible at all. And when you choose to create a custom solution, it's very expensive and time-consuming, and there are a lot of places for error. But we can basically use our SharePoint as our development platform. And the reasons to do that could be that SharePoint already has the data entry and management and storage facilities that you can leverage. It already has a permissions and authentication mechanism that, again, you don't have to develop. It's already there. It has an advanced web-based user interface that your users will find easy and understandable. And it's already installed, and that's the main reason. It's already there in your organization, and you can leverage that. So what would be the options of developing using your SharePoint? So you could just take your SharePoint out of the box and make some small adjustments in your browser, new lists, new columns. It's simple. There's no specific knowledge or experience required, but it's very limited. And when you really go and create a real-life application, it's not really the tool for that. So you can obviously take SharePoint Designer, and now you have the option of using customized views and forms, maybe some conditional formatting or some declarative workflows. But now we're already talking about a learning curve that you must overcome, some web technologies that you need to be proficient at. And it's still very, very limited. It's still hard to get to exactly what you want. So the third option would be using Visual Studio, and that practically gives you unlimited customization options. But now we're talking about a lot of knowledge and experience that you must have, and the development cycles are very long now, which drives the costs up, and it makes you choose the plan-first approach. So you'll have to map out your system in advance. Not everybody can do that. And again, we're talking about bugs and changes and fixes. It's all driving the cost even higher. Now, in 2013, you have the new option of using apps. You can buy a third-party app from an app store, but it's the same as a off-the-shelf application, not exactly built to your specifications, changes, sometimes impossible, sometimes very expensive. You can build an app in-house, but here we're talking about that is really similar to custom development, again with the development cycles and the cost. So the other option would be using generic customizable components. These components, they can be configured using just your browser. They will have some common business process patterns built right into them, so you can leverage that. They're continuously tested by both the manufacturer and other clients like you, and they undergo continuous process of improvement. So your system will actually get more features as the time goes by. Because everything is done in the browser and there's no specific deployment stage, you can choose the agile iterative development approach where you make changes to the system as you go, maybe even together with the stakeholders, which will help you drive the adoption levels up. And you can always count on support and advice, and if you go to the testimonials section on our website, you can see what people had to say about that. So when talking about components, they fall into three main categories. So we'll have components taking care of the forms side of things, how we enter data, how we manage our data, the user interface for that. We'll talk about components taking care of the process, meaning things happening behind the scenes, how the information flows through the system, and reporting, where we'll have components that are used to display data to our decision makers and to facilitate the decision-making process. Okay, so let's first of all take a quick look at how this system could look like. And we're talking now about the project management, which is basically a SharePoint site. This is a SharePoint Foundation 2010, but it can run on any other version that you might have installed. It doesn't really matter. It has some regular SharePoint lists in it, columns. It's basically created all in the browser. At the top level, we would have a list of customers, and we would have a list of projects. Now, if we go and examine the project, you would have such data as its name, its start and due date, and this system, it's primarily focused on budget utilization. So it's primarily focused on being able to see how much of the budget has been spent and where you stand in terms of actual versus budget. But again, this is just one of the possible implementation that you can easily build according to your needs. So when we entered this project, we specified that we'll have 50 budget hours and $1,000 to spend. So the next step would be assign those budget hours and costs to tasks. So we are basically dividing this budget between the tasks. We're creating tasks, and we can create tasks directly from here. We don't have to go to a different list. There's our relationship. So we are assigning these hours between the tasks, and we can track how many hours we've already assigned. So we've assigned 25 out of 50, so about 50%, exactly 50%, and you have this progress bar that shows it to you visually. The same goes for the cost. Now, once we've assigned the tasks and we have tasks in progress, we can now, our employees can now report the work done according to those tasks. So we'll also see these reported hours inside your project as well. So we'll have this data combined into one project. If we go back to the list, and this is actually a regular SharePoint list view web part. It's not something that we created, so you are able to extend it. You're able to change the way it looks, add columns, remove columns, like you would with any regular list view web part. We can even see the related tasks for each project directly from this view. So you'll have this drill down functionality directly built in. Now, when our employees go to report the work hours, they can click on a button and they can select a customer. By selecting a customer, they're basically filtering the available projects, and this is only showing the projects that are both active and the current user is assigned to them. So you can only report on those projects. Selecting a project will filter out a list of tasks that are both active and, again, the current employee is assigned to them. We select a task, then we describe what we've done. We enter the amount of hours that we've put into it, and it always also brings the information about who our manager is from the Active Directory directly without us having to enter this data. Once we've done that, once we've submitted those hours, they are, first of all, summarized on the level of a task. So we can see how many hours out of the assigned hours for the task were already utilized. And you'll have the progress bars and KPIs showing you where you stand. The next step, this information is summarized again on the level of the project. So you can see at any moment, you see an up-to-date picture of where we stand with our tasks. So for example, you can see the hourment, how many hours have been assigned between the tasks and the progress. And you can even drill in and see the reported hours directly from here. Again, this is a web part. This is a regular list view web part that you can customize in any way you can. And back to the presentation now. And now we're going to, okay, so let's ask a quick poll again. Keep you doing something as well. So we'll ask you, when you want to implement a new system, what is your biggest concern? Is it spending too much on it? Is it not being able to do exactly what you plan to do? Or maybe that your users do not end up using it? Okay, please vote. See that you can't see it now, but we'll already have more than 50% voted, and many people actually pick user adoption, and this is really a big problem in many developed systems, that users just simply do not want to use it in the end. Okay, maybe another 5 seconds for people to vote. Okay, so let's close the poll now and share the results with you. So you see that user adoption is actually one of the biggest problems, and the close second is the never-ending development process. You never actually get to the end of it. Okay, let's hide that. Okay, so let's now talk about building blocks and how they can help you, and we'll also show some demos about that. So forms. You already saw our entry form, and this is not a custom web part. This is not something that we build. This is actual SharePoint new item form or display form that has been enhanced by such things as tabs. So instead of having a lot of different columns just stacked one above the other, we now can separate them into tabs according to topics. That not only makes it easier for you to use it, but you can also attach permissions to each tab individually. So you can control if the columns in the tab are writable, read-only, or maybe completely hidden based on conditions, such as other column values or on the current user's identity. So that way you can precisely control who sees what information. For instance, financial information can be made visible only to the finances. We already saw some unique data entry controls, such as the ability to only select the active task and the task that I'm assigned to. We have other controls that you didn't see in this demo, such as the ability, for instance, to add an electronic signature to sign off the data that you enter. There are some very advanced input validation rules that you can leverage. And the most important thing here is the ability to create relationships inside SharePoint. You saw that with the relationship between the project and the tasks. You will have a single project, multiple tasks, or the hours. And as you know, relationships are a main building block of any application. When I'm talking about applications, it's relationships. So in our next short demo, we're going to see in depth the relationships and the input validation capabilities. Okay, so what we are going to do here is we are going to go to projects, and we're going to attempt to close the project. We're going to set its status to be finished. Now this project has some tasks that are still open. There's still tasks in progress. Let's see what happens when I change the status to finished and I close it. I save it. What happens is that we have a validation here, and this validation fails with an error message saying that there are still tasks in progress. So we've just created a validation rule that checks some other list and makes sure that this field actually can be set to this value. So how can we add such a validation rule? Obviously, to people who know SharePoint understand that this is not possible out of the box. So how can we do that? So first of all, we start with creating the relationship. If we go to the list settings, we'll see a column type associated items called tasks. This is the column that creates the relationship between the project and its tasks. And it will maintain this relationship and make sure that the project is connected to its tasks. Once we have that, we add another type of column called the associated items summary column. We'll call that one open tasks. And this one is actually going to take the information from the task column and count it. So it will count the tasks for each project, but it will only count those tasks where the task status is in progress. So it's basically counting only the open tasks. And this column is, you never have to enter the data manually into this column. It's always calculated automatically, and it's always up to date. So you can use that not only for counting, you can summary, you can create totals and averages and anything you want. Once we have that, once we have this number of open tasks for each project, we can add a validation rule. And again, this is not the built-in validation, which is right here, but this is something that we added. And you can create a validation rule, something like this. So for the column called status, when the number of open tasks is greater than 0, the value of that column should not be finished. When it is finished, we are showing this error message right here, and we are blocking the save process. So I've just showed you how easy it is to create this complex validation rule, take into account data in 2 different lists, and we've done it all in the browser, and it takes just a couple of seconds to do that. Back to the demo, to the presentation. Okay, so now let's talk about processes. So processes are, for instance, stages and notifications. So we can move a data item between different stages of approval or anything else, and we can notify the next person in line. And we can do that, for instance, with the tab permissions that we saw earlier and other technologies that we'll see in a second. You can do things like data import and export from external sources, such as emails, databases, web services, and we can even do things like remote updates. So for instance, we can update an existing item in a list based on data coming from an email. For instance, remote approvals via email from a mobile device. And the most important thing here maybe is the actions, which allow us to automate what's going on in our SharePoint. So we have an ability to create 14 different action types, from creating or updating list items, managing permissions, creating sites, creating lists, running workflows, calling external web services or stored procedures, and so on. And you can add those tasks, actions easily, again, using just the browser. So our next demo would be a remote approval process. And to show you that, when we go to project tasks, we will be closing a task, marking a task as closed. As a result of that, there will be an email going out to the creator of the task, to the owner of the task, saying that the task has been closed. If that owner does not agree to that, he can simply reply to that email with his full name in the body, and that will automatically reopen the task. He doesn't have to go into SharePoint and do anything manually. So first of all, how do we close a task? Well, we can obviously open it up in edit mode, change its status, and then save. That's regular, nothing special about that, but that takes a lot of time, so we're not going to be doing it this way. What we can do is simply select the task and click on this complete button in a ribbon, and that would do it for us. And it also will send a message in the background to our owner. So I'll go ahead and run the task that, oh, sorry, not yet. So we go to this email, and I can see the email, and our own format of the email saying that somebody closed the task, and it still has only 8 reported hours out of 10, and if I don't agree to that, I can reply to it with my name. This name thing is just a validation that we've added to make sure that the person is actually doing the right thing. You don't have to have it, and we're sending it to this account, which is not a real person. This is just a monitored system account. Sending it now. And I'm running this import process for now because we don't want to wait for it to run on the timer. Don't have time for that. So it'll take about 10, 20 seconds to complete to import this email. For now, only wanted to point out this subject of this email contains the task ID of the task that we want to reopen. So this is how the system recognizes what we need to do. Okay, so let's then go back. I hope it's already done its work. So what we're expecting to see is that this task is going to be in progress again. Let me refresh the page. Maybe do it in a few seconds. Okay. Just had to wait another 5 seconds maybe. So the task has been reopened. So let's see how something like that can be done. Again, everything is done in the browser. So first of all, we're going to see how we added this button to the ribbon. And we did that by creating an action. And I was talking about the actions earlier and the 14 different types of actions. So this actual action is an update list items action. And this action will complete. And instead of running on events or anything, it's actually run on demand. So it appears on the context menu and in the ribbon, and we need to actually click on it to run it. And what it does is basically sets the task status to be completed for the current item, and it has a condition as well, so it can only run when the task status is currently in progress. So we can only close tasks that are currently in progress. So we've done that. We've added the button. Next, how we set up the alert itself. So for that, we have this alert engine, which is a replacement for the built-in alerts, and it adds some additional advanced functionality. So let's open our alert, see. First of all, it goes out to recipient, which is a column, so created by column. Then we only send it when the item is modified, the task is modified, and only when after this modification, the task status equals to completed. So the actual task status column value has to be changed from something else to completed, and only then we'll send in this alert. So this can really minimize the number of occurrences when we actually send something out, and by that improving the quality of the alert. And the template that we're sending, this is something we designed, and obviously you can make your own, and it has some free text, and we have some tokens that are replaced with the actual values at runtime, and here's our ID as well here that we saw earlier. We're almost done, and now all we have to do is to actually import that email, that incoming email, into our list, make changes. So SharePoint already has an email-enabled list, but you cannot email enable any type of list, and you can only create new items, and there are several other limitations that you would have. Here we are doing it directly from the list settings. We are setting up a connection, in this case to an Exchange account, but it can be anything such as databases and web services as well. And we are monitoring this account. And for each email coming into this account, this action. And this is a reopen tasks action, and will update existing items. And the items that is going to update, first of all, what it's going to do is set the task status back to in progress for the task where the ID equals to the extracted value from the subject line. So they basically take in whatever is between the two hashtags. And we only want to monitor emails that actually have hashtags, and this is our validation rule, the sender name must contain the first row from the body of the email. This is not required, but it's just showing you that something like that is possible. So here again, we've designed and built quite a sophisticated business process in minutes using, again, just the browser to create this remote update approval kind of process. Back to the presentation. Okay, so our last poll for today is how we can contact you. So things that interest you, that you saw potential for yourself, for your organization. Please take a minute to answer that. Okay, a few more seconds.
By the way, if you don't answer that question, somebody will be getting in touch with you. Please go ahead and make sure that this question is answered so we know how to follow up with you.
Okay, let's wait about...
Yeah, we have about 70% voted. If we can just wait another 10 seconds. If you haven't voted yet, please go ahead and vote. Let us know how to contact you, or if not to, if that's the answer. That's fine too. We're not quite done with the webinar. We just wanted to make sure we got this in before the end. Okay, let's go ahead and close.
Okay, I'm closing it now. Okay, so next we're going to take a couple of common questions. Let me see. Okay, so first of all, the question of licensing. So our licensing model, and if we go to our website and we go, for instance, to the project management, you can see here under the purchase tab all the licensing options. So the first option, the easiest one, would be a single website license. So basically, you're only licensing the site that you actually created from this template, and the components are not usable anywhere outside of that site. There's also the options of getting a server license, and then you can reuse any component throughout your farm, and you have that option with the annual support or without the annual support. It's your choice. So these are the licensing options. Some people wanted to know more about the tabs and how something like that is set up. So it's actually very similar to the way that we've done everything we saw today. So again, we go to the list settings, and we have here the tabs and tab permissions, and we actually create the tabs directly from here. We assign columns from the full list of columns in the list directly to the tabs, and we can also attach permissions to the tabs. We're not using them in this particular demo, but you can set the permission level and in what forms it applies, and you can even create conditions. And I can prevent this project, the first tab, from being edited unless we are entering a new one. So it's always going to be locked down. So this is something that we can easily do as well. And you can create as many rules as you want. Go back. So now let's talk about reporting. So you already saw some of it. You saw the color coding. Again, nothing here is done using InfoPath or SharePoint Designer. It's all done in the browser. So we've seen color coding. We've seen some KPIs, indicators, progress bars that allow you to actually see the picture without having to read into the details. We also have charts and graphs, again, to visualize the data. And we have the capabilities of printing out your SharePoint data and maybe sending it as a PDF. You can email even the PDF to your internal and external users. And our next demo will talk about that. And during that demo, we're going to be creating an automated weekly report. Let's go back to the site. So first of all, let's talk about reporting in general. So we have this dashboard here that we've created. This dashboard shows the data, the project data. There's some graphs describing the different parameters of the project. All of the data here is filtered by this web part at the top, the filter web part, and we are currently showing only the projects that are in progress. But we can easily switch it to remove the filter, and now we are showing every project in the system, and you saw that all of the charts and the grid here are all updated instantly. So now, and we've also created some views here that also they serve as reports. For instance, the actual versus budget that we saw earlier. So let's go back to the project list, and now let's print the project. So we can go to a project, and we can open up its context menu, and we can click on print. And you can see that we've created our own print templates, and you can create your own, and we have our logo and our footer, custom header. All of the color coding is preserved, as well as the KPIs, and even the related items that belong to the current project. What we can do with that now, we can either print it, save it as a PDF file, or we can even email it directly from here, even as a PDF file, and we can do it. We can email to internal and external users or complete groups of people. So the same way we can print the list of projects. So we've created a view called problematic projects, and those are projects where health is not healthy. We can print that one as well as a list, so it's a different layout. You see all the information is preserved as well. We can also print. We can also create print templates to print even calendars. So now what we want to do is we want to take this printout and we want to send it automatically to our managers on a weekly basis. So each week we want to send it out as a PDF file, but we do not want to do it manually. So we can, again, create an action for that. And let's go here to the action settings again, and let's create this print action. So we have all the action types here, and there are 14 different ones. We'll select list items, and we will call that one weekly report. Now, actions can run, we saw it running on demand, and they can run when items are added or edited, but this one, we want to run it on the timer. So this one is going to be running, for instance, weekly on Fridays and at 4 p.m. That's great. Now, all we want to do is specify some action settings. So first of all, I only want to take the projects where health is not healthy. So I'm adding this condition. Once I've done that, I can select the print template. So I'll use my problematic project template. And I'm going to export it as PDF. I'm going to send it as an email. I'm going to send it to this SharePoint group, and to give it my own subject line and maybe some body. That's it. I'm saving and it's running. I don't have to do anything more than that, and it's going to be sending this report weekly now, completely automatically. Okay, so we are approaching the end of the demo. So what did we see today? We saw components that are easily configured using just the browser. We saw some patterns, some business process patterns built into those components that we leverage to achieve our goals. And again, the components are constantly tested and improved constantly. And we could use this approach where we were changing an active working system without having to redeploy. So in summary, when we use these generic components, it's really easy and fast to create a really sophisticated business application, in this case a project management application, and build it precisely to fit our unique requirements. And this way we can really achieve greatest user adoption and save on cost of development. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll be staying on the line for a few more minutes so we can answer your additional questions. And thank you again for coming today.